All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call this
Are
meeting.
you, microphone, please?
Get closer to the microphone. All right, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, April 11th meeting of the NCIP committee. Welcome, everybody. I think the next thing for us to do is roll call.
Aguajita Oaks, Alta Mesa, Casanova Oak Knoll,
Here.
Deer Flats,
Here.
Del Monte Beach,
Here.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande,
Here.
Downtown,
Here.
Fisherman's Flats,
Here.
Glenwood,
Here.
Monterey Vista,
Here.
New Monterey,
Here.
Oak Grove, Old Town,
Here.
Skyline,
Good evening.
and Villa Del Monte.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, everybody. I think the next item is for us to read the introduction and instructions.
Yes, all right. The city of Monterey is committed to a safe attendance of its public meetings. We ask that attendees in the council chamber keep their phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference and feedback with the hybrid meeting. The city of Monterey seeks to continue to offer virtual methods for public participation in meetings. If you aren't joining us in person here in the council chamber, there are two ways to virtually participate in this meeting. You may join the meeting directly on Zoom Gov using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device, and you can also call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting has started, it may be under the recent tab. To call into the Zoom meeting, dial toll-free 833-568-8864. Then enter meeting ID 161-313-7270#. And if prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound again. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9. Unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. And I or Parker will call on each public speaker in order of their raised hand. Please stay within the time limit that will be established for today's meeting, which we will show using a countdown timer on the screen. And if you're connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. Today's meeting is also streamed on the city YouTube account, which is accessible at youtube.com/City of Monterey with an approximate 10-second delay, and Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. And as always, we look forward to receiving your public comment. All right, and then with that, we are ready to go into our project review.
All right, thank you. First order on the agenda is public comment. This general public comment. So this is a period of time where somebody can come and speak to an item that is not on the agenda. On the agenda tonight is the first review of projects from Monterey. It says Monterey Vista, Monterey Vista 2 multi-neighborhood. So if there is something you wish to address that's not a project in one of those neighborhoods, please come forward or raise your hand. All right, seeing none, then let's move on to approval of the minutes. So the minutes were in your package. Are there any adjustments, corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I will invite a motion to approve the minutes. All right,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
all right. So Kurt is a first and Glenwood is a second. So moved and seconded. So let's do a roll call vote, I believe.
Aguajita Oaks, Alta Mesa, Casanova Oak Knoll.
Yes, we didn't ask for Zoom public comments.
There were none that were
Okay.
indicated on Zoom.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Deer Flats,
Approve.
Del Monte Beach,
Aye.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande,
Aye.
Downtown,
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats,
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
I'll abstain. I missed the last meeting.
Thank you. New Monterey,
Aye.
Oak Grove,
Aye.
Old Town, Skyline,
Aye.
and Via Del Monte.
Aye.
Right, minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda, are there any information reports or staff comments before we move on to the main agenda item? All right, seeing none. We're on agenda item 2, NCIP committee, first review of projects for the second half of the neighborhoods, Monterey Vista through multi-neighborhood. And what we're going to do is have a presentation on the projects. Generally, I think we're going to let the rep make a comment, then we'll open it to public, and then we'll come back to committee questions, or should we do it vice versa?
I think in the past we've done comments before.
Yeah, you do
Comments
public
before.
comment and then you bring it back to the committee.
Right. So, but we're going to do those. We'll do it one neighborhood at a time, I believe. And if that gets too late, then maybe we'll open up to the public to let you get the rest in. But I think we'll move along quickly enough. So with that, we'll do it one neighborhood at a time, starting with Monterey Vista.
All right. Can I don't know, can you see it online, the presentation?
No, we cannot.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I have to share. That's right.
Yes, now we can.
All right, here we go. Okay. Okay, thank you. And we'll get started here. Progressing. All right, there we go. Okay, so just to recap from last meeting, there are 69 new projects this year, this 24-25 cycle, 31 returning projects that were existing in 2020, and then when City Council took the funds and closed out those projects, there's 31 remaining that have not yet been say approved and refunded, which gives us a total of 100 projects. And for everyone's information, voting night is June 6th. There were 46 projects that we went over 2 weeks ago. We'll go over 54 projects tonight, roughly. 2 projects have been withdrawn, and then we've bundled some. So it's going to be around 50. So I think it won't be too late. The vast majority of those projects are in the Monterey Vista, New Monterey, and the multi-neighborhood category. So we'll start with Monterey Vista, where there's 8 projects. The first one, Monterey Vista 01, is to install sidewalk and curb ramp at Moonrush Avenue and Via Arbolas. This is across from the Del Monte Shopping Center. and on the side of the street with the Super 8 Motel, which you can see in the background in the photo. MV02 is via Guyuba, Walter Colton Drive, and via Guyuba via Pinar traffic calming. This corridor here, near there's the school and the street there. Project MV03, Toyon Drive and Dry Creek Road traffic calming. So that's in the neighborhood, and it's this this rather wide intersection. MV04 is Via Paraiso Park pickleball and tennis court improvements. Specifically, it's targeted it's complete resurfacing to address, as you can see here, the cracks in the court surface. MV05 is curb and sidewalk at Via del Pinar and Via del Rey, or at Via del Rey, Via del Pinar between Via del Rey and Via Chiquita. And it's to add, curb and sidewalk on this side of the street. MV06, San Burnaby Drive, road widening and sidewalk. This project is a returning one, and the design is nearly complete. This would just be to implement, well, not just to be, this would be to implement the design. MV07, Moonrise Avenue, Soledad Drive freeway entrance signage. This is another returning project. It's to add some additional signage along identifying entrance to Highway 1. And MV08, another returning project would be traffic calming and construction along Mar Vista Drive, Toda Vista Drive. So those are the Monterey Vista projects.
All right, thank you. So I would normally say that the rep can address them and then we go out to public, but you're saying you want to have public come in first.
Either or, whatever you'd like. I can address them or.
I think it might help if you do clarification for
Okay.
folks. So you kind of
All right.
set the stage.
To clarify some of the projects, so MV1 is, if you can go back to that picture, the submitter is really looking for not a sidewalk along the whole block from here up, but to get around that corner that you see that has grass around there. The question I have for you, Reggie, is can the city even build like a sidewalk around that corner without being forced to build a sidewalk along the whole block? There is a very narrow sidewalk on there, but although most people walk through the entrance there on that you see there of the hotel, and can we even build only a sidewalk on the corner, which is all she's really requesting, without having to go to the whole block?
I want to wait and get feedback from Andrew Easterling, city engineer. He's out on leave this week, so he's due back on Monday. So I can follow up with him. I believe we can build a curb ramp, but we have to have one on both corners. So we would have to install one here as well.
There is a ramp there with no place to go. There is a ramp
So-
existing there.
And we would probably have to bring it up to current
Oh, okay.
standards. So, but let me speak with Andrew and then I can get you a formal response.
Okay. Yeah, I think the person in the hotel is not in favor of sidewalk. That would take too much of his property. And I think he also thinks that his property goes right up to the sidewalk, which it probably doesn't, but we know the submitter is not, or the property owner is not in support of a sidewalk the whole length. I haven't talked to him specifically only about the corner, but he may be. Okay, we'll wait to hear back from you on that. MV02 is the traffic calming on Via Guyuba. There is quite a bit of interest in calming. I know there's a current project on there doing a survey from a project that was funded last year to put a stop sign at that intersection. I think, I don't know, it seems like that project, the analysis of that data may still not warrant a stop sign there. I don't know whether you have any idea of how that study is moving forward. But-
Yeah, it's moving forward, and it's my understanding we've received the draft data, and we're taking a look at that. But I think you're correct. It's looking like it's not gonna support a stop sign or an always stop, which is what the project was for, always stop. I don't think it's gonna support that. So we're looking at, but yeah, so we can, I guess with that information, move forward with this project.
I think and what I had written you about, I think we'd like to have an on-site meeting sometime with some of the neighbors who live there. And if we can organize that at some point and have an on-site meeting with you and maybe a traffic person to see what other traffic calming measures we can take on that street. There's quite a bit. She's actually has a petition out. She's getting neighbors. She says right now she has 53 signatures. So that was is quite
53 in
impressive.
support of traffic calming.
And getting some traffic calming on Via Gayuba there on the steep part of Via Gayuba. It's such a dead straight street. It's wide. It's, whether we can put opposing bulb out, whatever measures work, I think people would really like. MV3 is the project up on the intersection of Dry Creek and Toyon, and I know there's mixed feelings about the project. Although there was an initial suggestion to put some red curbs, there's been some mixed feelings. But we are having a meeting on Monday the 15th, so we're going to get hopefully a lot of, you'll be there, and a lot of the neighbors will be there, and we can either come to a conclusion that we want to move ahead with something or that we don't. So I'll get back to folks on that. MV4, I've talked to many of the pickleball players. Overall, I must say people are very happy with the 2 pickleball courts and the tennis courts. There is a lot of play, but it sure doesn't make the noise of the big group play that used to be there. So I think both neighbors and players are quite happy with that. So what we've done there, so the arbitration that the city did worked really well. In terms of to put up a fence and between the tennis courts and here, I've talked to people, there's very mixed opinions about it. I would say the submitter will at some point come talk about it, but I don't get a strong feeling from the people playing there, either tennis players, or that a fence down the middle would really help a lot. Or resurfacing that, the cracks are pretty minor, that the cost of resurfacing the whole court. So anyway, that's a kind of a mixed opinions there. On MV5, that is a resubmitted project. It was submitted, 5 years ago or so. And this is basically realigning the end of the street. It's called curb and sidewalk. It's not really a sidewalk. They don't want a sidewalk there, but they do want a curb and like a bulb out a little bit to keep cars that come too fast down Via Del Rey to just swerve into, that can't make the curve down Via Del Rey, to keep them from going straight into Via Del Pinar. That's has a lot of residents, a lot of cars parked on the street, and a lot of cars have gotten sideswiped there. So it's a bulb out, basically to do a bulb out, and there's a big deep drainage ditch that trucks drive into occasionally, and that will get a pipe and have a bulb out over it. So and I believe Jeff Krebs has done that design. He actually did that design. He really liked that project and threw together, I don't know whether it was a complete design, but it was a design. So we will have the submitter come and talk to us at our next meeting on this project. MV6 is the San Burnaby curve. That is, like you said, the design is mostly done. This is for either phase 1 or the whole thing. I think it depends upon last time it was submitted. We've kind of divided it up into two projects. And I think there was a meeting recently on it, and all the neighbors were in high support of the project. And you were there. There were, I don't know how many neighbors were there, but at least half a dozen or more. And so we have a couple speakers tonight on it. And so we'll work forward. And once we get cost estimates, I think we'll decide whether we're going to phase it again or not. So that's this narrow section is here to put a sidewalk on the left side of the street. There's this old sidewalk on the right side you see here, but that is way substandard and doesn't go all the way through. There's parked cars further up and you can't really walk on there. And we do have a lot of pedestrians in that area, and being as narrow as it is and fast as cars go there, it's kind of a safety hazard as is. MV7, this was a very old project from over 10 years ago, I think. And I think you submitted that Todd Reeves, I think you submitted that long time ago. And I don't know whether it's still valid or not. I mean, you might say a couple words for it, whether you still want to move ahead with that.
I think what you might be referring to is in my position as staff, the staff submitted something. on
Yeah.
that. So geez, that's been, I've been retired 10 years now. So
I know.
you've caught
Well,
me
your name
flat footed.
is on the project, so I don't know whether that's.
Now it's coming back to me. Yes, the idea was that visitors to the city don't know exactly how to get back onto Highway 1 heading southbound. And it gets a little confusing because they don't know if they should turn left or go straight forward. Because at that point, you don't really know that you're actually getting on like a freeway on-ramp. So I think that was the genesis behind it.
I'm not sure there'd be a lot of neighborhood support for it, but I don't know. It was put on the list at the last minute. The last project, MV8, was a funded project that got defunded. That was a result of the redesign of all of Mar Vista, because Mar Vista Drive in Monterey and our neighborhood is kind of a cut through. It's a major traffic corridor. We put a lot of effort into slowing down traffic. We put the 2 white lines down the street that seemed to help a little bit. But the overall design project calls for bulb outs at like 4 intersections, I believe. And this was to do the first intersection. And so at Toyon, at Toda Vista was the one we decided last time. The project itself was just to do one of the intersections. Talking to neighbors now is there might be more interest in doing instead of doing Toda Vista, doing Via Gayuba, the top of Via Gayuba. And I don't know how far that drawing for that intersection has been done, but that's part of the funded project to design Mar Vista, to redesign all of Mar Vista, or at the bottom where there potentially might be a roundabout or that other intersection. That's been quite an issue. So one of those intersections may be a better intersection, but it's still, I need to talk with both you, Reggie, and as well as more residents. But the residents I've talked to so far said there's probably a better intersection to do than Toda Vista, which is way up top. I think initially we thought we'd start at the top and do one intersection down every year. But I think since that obviously isn't happening, there might be a more critical intersection. And I think generally people think that either Via Gayuba or that Venza Place intersection would be better suited. So anyway, we'll get back on that. So those are the 8 projects that I have, and we'll take some comments.
Thank you. And I think, so you're going to bring back some clarification on a few of these, but the
Yeah.
main heart of all these projects still stands.
Yes.
All right. So we'll open up to public comment to keep us from being here too late and keep us focused. I think we'll continue to use the 3-minute rule for comments. And let's start with the folks in the room, and then we'll go to the folks online. So there's less standing. So I don't know if you want to go ahead and get ready. And let's wait. Are we
right.
ready? Okay.
There's
Let's
you
go.
ready. Okay, hi. I'm Gina Sessions. I'm glad to be back here on this particular project, MV06. I'd like to use a little bit of my 3 minutes to say one thing about MV01. I didn't realize that was on the list. I was just saying to my husband 2 weeks ago, they really need to put that curve on a neighborhood vista or neighbor, whatever you all, the NIP program, because it is seriously one of the most dangerous small little spaces in a walk to the mall. If you're coming across and up the street, like from San Bernabé across and then head toward the mall, there's that one little spot. I mean, it's not very big. It is maybe 2 of these wide and 2 of these that way. And those cars rush by you and there's no sidewalk. It's a sloped hill. And so you're kind of like trying to stay on the dirt or on whatever as the cars are going by. It's really, really hazardous. So that being said, I'm glad to support that. I'm really here to talk about MV06. So the neighborhood got together back in 2017, 2008, no, it's 2018, and came together a number of residents to put forward this request to address the real safety issues that exist in the San Bernabé curve. It's hard to see on either of these pictures, but this curve actually goes downhill and then back uphill and curves at each side of the hill and narrows in places and has no sidewalk. So children from school walk there, mothers with carriages push their babies, people bicycle, many people walk, some of us less young than others. And the kind of agility that you need to have to navigate that is just amazing. So we are here. We have met, as was said earlier, with Reggie and the engineer who developed the plans, because thank you, you all approved it a couple years ago to have the plan written. And the neighbors in general that we've talked to, 6 out of 10 are very much in support of this. We've had some changeover in ownership of the property and we're reaching out to them. We've reached some of them. And in general, the folks that live there really support having a safe walkway and are not really concerned about the impact that will be on their property. So I see this little thing, I suddenly realized I'm down to my 5-second mark. So that I will leave that. We have other people that are interested. So.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Tenassi. I'm here to also speak about MV06. I live within the project footprint, and I've noticed at that road, it's really a mixed-use road. I mean, it is pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars with no separation between traffic and pedestrian. And it's concerning because I like to see people out and about the neighborhood walking. And I think when there's without that separation between a pedestrian path and a car travel path, it inhibits people from participating in recreational walking through neighborhoods. And so I'm really in support of this project. I think it'll do a lot in terms of sight lines by cutting into the slope on the one side. You'll open up around those curves so cars can see better. Widening up at the top will allow 2 cars to actually pass and possibly, and also allow a pedestrian to be present when those 2 cars pass. So I just like to say we're working at getting complete support. It looks very promising from our other neighborhoods. Our challenges right now are properties are changing hands, and the people who are landlords are not as quick to respond or to grasp what we're doing, we're proposing here. So that's all. I just wanted to come up and add those things. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next. Sharon.
Hi, Sharon Dwight. I want to say I'm speaking to Monterey Vista 1, and that little stretch, in fact, that side of the road has always been a problem. When we first came to Monterey, the family, my husband and I, back in 1972, it was a bad place to walk. It has been a bad place to walk. It continues to be a bad place to walk. It definitely should be addressed. Having said that, I remember how many times we were told when I was on your side of the table that the city would not pay for commercial property sidewalks. They absolutely would not pay. And the only exception we were ever able to get was when it was a mixed use. This isn't. And so it seems to me, based on, unless they've changed the policy, the city would insist that the property owner pay for it. They did insist on Cannery Row that some of the commercial properties, the property owner would pay. It is definitely a safety hazard. And I think that before you go ahead, I think you need to be talking to the city attorney and asking what the city's policy is about the commercial sidewalk. And also on the corner to corner aspect of this, we were told in no uncertain terms that we absolutely had to do the whole block if we touched any of the properties at all, which would then mean that anybody who doesn't have sidewalks would have to kick in unless they have a mixed use aspect of their properties, as I understand it. So just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello. So I submitted MV1, and I appreciate that other people support this as well. But to give a little more detail, I live on Via Descanso near Del Monte Shopping Center, so I walk over there all the time. And I have to walk up Via Arbalest, it's quickest route, and it's a very steep street leading to Munras. And that corner is so hazardous for pedestrians that someone is going to be seriously injured there if this is not reconfigured. There is no sidewalk at all when you come past the Super 8 motel in order to cross Via Arbalest. And you just have this very large dirt berm with plantings, which obstructs the view for drivers who are coming up Via Arbalest and stopping at that stop sign. Oftentimes they don't really stop, and they're turning right onto Munras. And pedestrians walking past that Super 8 toward Via Arbalest are forced to step into oncoming traffic. And that's one of the busiest thoroughfares in Monterey. And that is so dangerous. Twice I've almost been hit by vehicles that didn't see me when they began to turn right while I attempted to walk around that berm to get to the corner. And as Munras is lined with hotels, it's often tourists who are unfamiliar with the traffic flow who are crossing at this corner. So not only is it extremely dangerous to cross there, but it is not ADA compliant. It doesn't provide any safe pathway for people using a wheelchair or other assist device, such as a scooter. And I'm proposing that that dirt berm just be removed so that a concrete sidewalk could be placed just at that corner. You can walk past the Super 8. There is a narrow sidewalk there, but there needs to be a connection between the narrow sidewalk in front of the hotel, be able to walk safely past the berm, and have a curb cut for ADA compliance. Thank you.
Before you go, did you state your name for a good minute?
Oh, I'm Ann Timberlake.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the room? All right. I'm looking online and I don't see any hands raised. Oh, wait, there we go. So are there any public comments online? I don't see any. So if not, then I think,
Parker, do you see any hands online?
None from public comment, just from community member.
right. So we'll take it back to the committee, and Richard Rosello had his hand up first. So let's start there.
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate what Sharon Dwight just said. Up till now, that's been city policy. And I think the public doesn't understand that NCIP cannot override current city policy. current traffic plans or any master plans. But we do need to be refreshed on what are the rules. I know my understanding, and Rick brought up at the last meeting, that we cannot do commercial property. I'm unclear if we can force the owner of the property to put it in if they don't want it because of public safety reasons. I would like that clarified at the next meeting. But there are things in some of the requests, like traffic humps, which are against city policy. I'd like to know what the current policy is on that and whether we can support the project with that item in it or not. And all the traffic suggestions in the Monte Vista neighborhood, do they all comply with the traffic study? Because we were told if it's not in the study, we can't do it. You have to redo the study. So I haven't read their study. I'm assuming it's including all of this, but I'd like confirmation at the next meeting on that. And I do thank you for your time. And there was one person that just contacted me under public comments. They called in, they had their hand raised and they were not recognized. Thank you.
Do we see that person is available? But first, let's address, Reggie has some comments for you.
So regarding the projects, specifically MVO2 and MV 08, those two projects, they are included in the recently approved update to the Monterey Vista traffic calming plan. So I can speak to that. Those are both included. And traffic speed bumps or whatever we want to call them, they are not approved in the city.
I believe that whatever's in your plan, you're allowed to do. So there's not going to be any speed bumps in anybody's plan.
Right. No, but yeah, these projects are in the plan.
I think the one project that mentioned speed bumps, once she understood that they were not allowed, she said, no problem, well, there's other ways.
Right. Other comments or questions from,
And just we did see a hand raised, but it was at the beginning before we had even called the meeting to order. So if that individual wants to call back and provide comment, they can.
all right, we'll keep an eye out. In the meantime, Fisherman's Flat.
This reminds me, this commercial thing that was brought up, the same thing applied to a project we had a couple years ago that was on the corner of Munris Avenue and El Dorado. There's an old motel there and there's dirt along, and right now people have to walk in the dirt, and it's a problem where we had to get the owner of the motel to fund it. And I drove by there just a week or so ago and it's still dirt. It's the same problem, getting the commercial person to pay for it. So this is not a new problem. This is a problem we've had before. So good luck.
I'll talk with Reggie and we'll work on the legal stuff for that sidewalk project. You bet.
Other comments, questions from the committee? Linwood.
I'd like to comment on MV7 regarding the highway sign. I go through there quite a bit when I'm going to work, and there's constantly people that have lost their way and they can't get to the highway. They can't figure out where it goes. The regulars obviously know how to get there because they've been doing it, but they wind up doing U-turns, illegal U-turns, and it causes traffic problems. So I really feel that we need that highway sign there giving directions, and it won't cluster up or too many signs. It's a needed one, definitely. Thank you.
Other comments from the committee? Then I'll add real quick my kind of question comment. I remember us asking the city to write letters to commercial property owners, notifying them that they need to put it in. But the interesting thing would be, can you get just one side of the corner done and not do both sides? And the question I had is, in the old days, we used to have a sign department. So signs were not something we had to worry too much about. So I don't know if we can just refer it to the sign department.
Yeah, we still have a sign department, but I don't know. I can follow up on that.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, everybody. That's Monterey Vista. Next up would be New Monterey. So let's hear our overview first.
Yes, there's 18 projects in New Monterey. New Monterey 01 is Lobo Street 600 block drainage improvements. So it was there was an NCIP project, I guess, several years ago, not quite sure when, but to do improvements on the opposite side of the street. So now this applicant is requesting a similar improvement on the uphill side of the street. New Monterey 02 and 15. This one is both a new and returning project. David Avenue open space acquisition. This property is currently owned, it's my understanding, currently owned by Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. New Monterey 03, David Avenue, Terry Street, street improvements with a crosswalk. So my vision is that it would be across here. And just for everyone's information, the city is working on an updated crosswalk policy. New Monterey 04 is an update to the New Monterey plan, which back from 1991. New Monterey 05, Hilltop Park Center photovoltaic array and battery backup system. New Monterey 07, sidewalk at Linden Street between Withers Avenue and Irving Avenue. So it's kind of down this hill. New Monterey 08 and 12, similar projects. One was submitted by city staff, one submitted by the neighborhood. It's to renovate Hilltop Center. This building, it's my understanding, it's if it's not the largest, it's one of the largest community facilities in the city, and has lots of different projects, lots of different activities, and it needs some much needed work. New Monterey 09 is to replace the turf at Trinity Christian School. This property is owned by Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. So you can see some of the turf condition. New Monterey 10, Schulte Park design and renovation. It's specifically looking at the Foam and Drake Avenue side of the park. New Monterey 11, Cannery Row pedestrian improvements, traffic calming. This project calls for reducing Cannery Road to one-way, taking out parking on one side and making it into more of a pedestrian friendly environment. New Monterey 14 is Cypress Park tennis court resurfacing, addressing some of these cracks that are caused by tree roots, specifically on this far side of the court. New Monterey 16 is Cannery Row public restroom design. This is a returning project. New Monterey 17 is also a returning project, and it's addressing this crosswalk on Private Bolio and along Lighthouse Curve. New Monterey 18, another returning project, would be restoration of the worker houses along the rec trail in Cannery Row. And those are the 18 New Monterey projects.
All right, thank you. So does our rep from New Monterey want to give a little color or clarification?
Okay, so I'll do my best to not repeat a lot that don't really need too much clarification. I also want to state that I believe that I have some conflicts with New Monterey 09 and New Monterey 13. So I'm not going to make comments, but I do know that there are people in the community, the New Monterey Neighborhood Association, who can make comments on those. New Monterey 01, that's as explained, just making sure that we're addressing the other side of the street. 02, it's a David Ave open space that also appears to be a duplicate for New Monterey 15. And this is also a returning project. I recall taking a look at this space as well as talking to the neighborhood association as well as the city, and there didn't seem to be very much interest in acquiring that space. They felt the steep was, there's too steep of a slope for it to have use as an open space. So it didn't seem to be supported kind of all around. New Monterey 03, the David Terry crosswalk. My understanding is the traffic study has already been done, and this was identified as the best location for adding a crosswalk on David. And it would include curb extensions, a flashing pedestrian sign, as well as an upstream island, which would eliminate parking on both sides of David to help calm traffic. New Monterey 04 is the neighborhood plan. It hasn't been updated for a while, so we want to have some resources to be able to do that. New Monterey 05, that's the solar panels and battery backup for Hilltop. So this would kind of be coupled with New Monterey 8 and New Monterey 12. So the difference between 8 and 12, 8 is the project that the city submitted, and 12 is the project that the neighborhood association submitted. It's a very important building to New Monterey, a lot of activities. We do our neighborhood meetings there. It's our CERT trailer is there as well. So this is an area that could also serve as an emergency shelter. So having solar panels battery backup instead of using a generator that's kind of plugged in from the outside to the inside was thought to be something that would be very helpful. So I can maybe get clarification in terms of if there's a choice between the renovation and the panels. If we have to choose one or the other, I can maybe get some clarification on that. But in terms of the duplicates, the neighborhood association would prefer New Monterey 12 because it also includes seismic analysis and strengthening. And that really is the difference between the city's project proposal and the neighborhood association one. So New Monterey 07, the Linden sidewalks. So the sidewalks in Upper New Monterey would be against the neighborhood plan. I did reach out to the submitter and I haven't heard back, so I can try to reach out to them again to see if they want to amend it to maybe be a DG pathway or something else, so I can follow up on that for our next meeting. Let's see. The New Monterey 10, so that would be the Schultze Park. That didn't seem to be very supported by the residents. It was felt that the residents wanted more input about what that design would look like, as opposed to the city kind of coming up with it without any feedback. It would be a park that would be used by multiple residents, not just those kind of in the vicinity. So wanting a little bit more community input in terms of the project. So as written, it's not supported by the neighborhood association. New Monterey 11, that Canary Row 1 lane, that also does not seem to be supported by the neighborhood association. I haven't reached out to this person in terms of any additional information or clarification, and obviously the city would need to weigh in as well. But it doesn't seem to be something that is a priority for New Monterey Neighborhood Association. Let's see. New Monterey 14, the Cypress Park tennis courts, just as written, so leveling and resurfacing only. And the New Monterey 16 would be the Canary Row bathrooms. So that was a returning project. We did approve funding for the citywide restroom study. So we would prefer that study to be done before putting this proposal up again. And then New Monterey 17 would be the crosswalk, lighthouse, and private folio. I think, Tom, you submitted that one. I don't know if you wanted to comment on that. That's another returning project. Okay. And then lastly, New Monterey 18, the Cannery Row Workers Shacks. So a couple of years ago, a lot of the historical preservation projects for the Cannery Row area did get funding. This was one that did not. So this is why that one's returning. And then again, a reminder, I did not speak on New Monterey 09, and I did not speak on New Monterey 13, because I believe I have conflicts on those two.
All right, thank you. So at this point in time, we'd like to open it up to the public for comments on projects in New Monterey.
Thank you, Tom Reeves, President New Monterey Neighborhood Association. I'll go through these really quickly. New Monterey 3, that's been on the list for quite a while, and that is a dangerous crossing there. So it'd be there's a rise on David Avenue there. So your sight distance going toward the ocean is very limited. So that would help to address that problem. The neighborhood plan update, New Monterey 4. As all of you know, the neighborhood plan is the underpinning for many of the NCIP projects, and that's a 33-year-old plan. It needs to be updated. Some of the other subtle differences between New Monterey's proposal, which is 12 for Hilltop Center and 8, is in the city's proposal, they have an emergency backup generator. And we thought, since the city is wanting to be a green city, energy conserving, why not do photovoltaics? It's a perfect building to do that on. There's a huge amount of acreage, if you will, of roof area there. And then the seismic upgrades, we thought there wasn't, why put a couple $1 million or $1 million into a building if it doesn't even meet, present day seismic standards. So that's why we put the seismic investigation into that too. A question I have, which I shouldn't be asking a question of you guys, but when it comes to New Monterey 9, I just saw in the picture, the photograph, that it looks like the turf is in okay shape, except for like in one area, probably around home plate. And I'm thinking, well, does the whole thing need new grass, or maybe just do some patching up and fertilizing and watering? I'm not a Louis Marcuso who's here, but seems to me like there might be a more efficient way of doing this than to resod the whole thing and just have the kids thrash it in a year's time and have it look like that again, or put artificial turf. I don't know, but it's worth us asking the question, I think. The crossing on Lighthouse, oh man, that was like from 2004, and I don't remember. I mean, that was my walk path to work. And I think since then that we were talking about a Hawthorne connection for pedestrians, as I recall. And I don't know what happened to that project. It was like a ramp that would go up to the top of the wall, and it was for bicycles and pedestrians. And I thought that's an excellent idea, so that people from New Monterey wouldn't have to drop down a Lighthouse. They could just get right at that crosswalk there and then cross over. So I don't know, maybe that's this project, but I don't know. I don't remember. It's 20 years ago. My memory went, like that when I retired. So. Yes, sir. Are you at?
Well, I think neighbors who lived on that street were very much against that ramp.
Well, yeah, and times change. I mean, I know that things are different now than they were 10 years ago, much less 20 years ago. So perhaps, okay, I'll shut up.
Thank you. And I see Sharon's making her way up.
Hi, Sharon Dwight, New Monterey resident. I'll hit it fast. Lobo 600 block. It is a problem. The pavement is crumbling at the edges, and they just came through with patches for the schedule, the Proposition S, and totally left all the crumbling stuff exactly where it was. So the other side still looks fabulous. This side needs some work. David Avenue open space. The New Monterey area plan says that if it is obvious and we want to have open space, trees, green space, that this is something that we want. And the school district, it was an oops. When they transferred the title to Hilltop, what became Park Center, they forgot the other parcel. This is the entrance to the neighborhood. It is a stand of trees. It is not the original, it should not be the cost of the original project. It would be only for the legal transfer of title. It does not need a lot of tree work, which really inflated the price before. It's finishing something that should have been done. New Monterey 3, David Terry Linden, there is an existing design already. As far as I know, it was ready to build. So that one should go ahead. The New Monterey 8 or 12, Hilltop Park Center roof has been leaking like a sieve for years. It really needs work. It would be lovely if the city could share the cost of fixing their facility. New Monterey 11 on the Cannery Row sidewalk, traffic calming, that was not part of any traffic study that was done. Cannery Row 16, Cannery Row restroom design, that was Cannery Row business people are going to pay for the maintenance that was never part of the downtown wharf restroom study. It never was. It should not be held up for that. And New Monterey 17, the Lower Presidio, do not confuse that with the Hawthorne cut through. The people on Hawthorne wanted it. The property owners who didn't live there didn't want it. That is not this project. This project was crossing the Presidio. We already did the part from the old town over, but this is the last piece. I know that I did walkthroughs with engineers at least 6 different times. I don't know why it never got off dead center. I really don't, but it is not to be confused with the Hawthorne piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more in the council chambers that would like to speak to New Monterey? Right. I don't see any. So let's take a look online.
Yes, we have 2 comments for public comment. We can start with Christina.
Hi, my name is Christina Briddock, and I'm actually president of the Lighthouse District and also a member of the Cannery Row District. I have businesses in both locations. And I'm speaking in behalf of the New Monterey 16, the restrooms on Cannery Row. And I'd like to revisit that. I guess it was approved originally in the 2018-19. During that time, the project was defunded and funneled into the citywide restroom study. I said we fully support the citywide restroom study to best identify where additional restrooms are needed. However, Cannery Row has been in dire need of additional public restrooms for years. Considering the study has not yet begun, it could be years of identifying and building the restrooms. As the original restroom project has been brought back for review, we are requesting funding for the restrooms this year. There's no question that they are needed, as the wait times in public restrooms can be up to 15 minutes on Cannery Row during the high season and on weekends. This wait time affects both visitors and many employees of businesses who do not have private restrooms. The location of the restroom would also add much needed restroom on the rec trail between Lovers Point and San Carlos Beach. We thank you for all the work you're doing and taking the time to consider this much needed project.
All right. Thank you. We have another hand.
Yes, Patrick.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, I've lived in New Monterey for 10 years now, and I love the neighborhood. And I'm speaking on behalf of New Monterey Project 03, the crossing at David and Terry. So I've raised my children here. They're now 11 and 8. And crossing David is always a somewhat dangerous event. Between Forest and Pine, I believe that there's nothing that provides for cars to slow down. And so I actually submitted a proposal for a crosswalk at Cinex and Fillmore. And then I was told that there is this project that's potentially underfoot at David and Terry. And I think that it's a wonderful idea. And I frankly would be very excited, excuse me, for my kids to be able to walk home from school without me worrying about how they're going to get across David Street. And I'm very happy to understand that there's already a traffic study which has been completed. And I do understand there's only two main arteries that come from Forest down to Lighthouse. However, I think that finding a balance where pedestrians and bikes have a little bit of a safer time crossing David would be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. So thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other hands raised in the Zoom? All right,
No, that's it.
we'll bring it back to the council. So any member comments or questions or clarifications? Deer Flats.
So in 17, it's the private polio lighthouse. And I'm looking at the picture. Is that project for a crosswalk? Is that what it's asking us? Because isn't that a crosswalk just up from the intersection on Bolio?
Yes, but I think it's to improve the crossing. Yes, there is a current crosswalk, but it would be to improve it. And to, yeah, I think, and to bring it down lower. I'm not fully familiar with it, but we can get more information.
Okay, Monterey Vista.
I have a question about Hilltop Center. I mean, there's a number, obviously, the building needs help, but it needs a lot of help. And I was wondering if there's a priority of things that need done, so you're not like putting solar panels on it and afterwards realizing you need a new roof. And I was wondering what the real priorities are that should be done
At Hilltop?
At Hilltop Center, right?
Well, I mean, I think generally speaking, any roofing company would tell you before you put solar panels, you would want to redo the roof. We already know the roof is in poor condition. So I think of all the things that need to be done, I would say the roof is probably the number one. Then we could look at any other additions to the roof. But then the building also needs new windows, new HVAC. I mean, it's a kind of a long list. I mean, I don't disagree with, I don't think anyone disagrees with, does it need seismic, at least a study? I don't think I wouldn't disagree with that. I just think that in order to say, bring it up to say, like, whatever we want to say, like where everyone would like it to be fully useful and fully utilized, I think it's going to take, I think it's a heavy lift. It's a lot of effort, a lot of money.
Clarifying.
That answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to start somewhere, but is the city willing at all to partner in the rehabilitation of this building, since they're now the owner?
I mean, I can get an answer to that question. I'm not writing checks.
Didn't we have a strategic plan or ask for a strategic plan for this building a number of years ago? So I would be interested in understanding that in conjunction with these asks, because I think we're walking up to it cold when we've actually done some legwork on this. Other comments? Fisherman's Flat.
Yeah, I think the city needs to be responsible for fixing the roof. You know, we're getting it, like the fire stations, the roofs are leaking. I mean, what is the city doing for basic maintenance? I mean, we're getting stuck with stuff that shouldn't be an improvement. A roof would work. And this is another example of where is the money going? I don't know if any of you saw the letter to the editor from Rick Hoyer that was over the couple days ago, maybe yesterday. Where is all the money going?
And NCIP does do repairs, but New Monterey, you want to clarify and address that?
So there were two studies, I want to say a couple of years ago. One was a use study that was proposed, and then the other one was a renovation study, and neither of them met the criteria for funding. So I don't believe a study has been done unless you can double check and see.
Other questions or comments on New Monterey projects? Oh, yeah.
Jay,
Thank you. Go ahead, Richard.
Yes. One of the things that we haven't been doing, when you ask for public comment, you check Zoom, but you're not checking the phone. Is the same person called back, and their hand's been raised since 6 o'clock. So other than that, I have some issues or some concerns about a couple projects in New Monterey. I'm very concerned about the safety of the building, regardless of the price tag. The buildings need to be safe, and seismic retrofit is required in public buildings. The fire department is the same thing. Hilltop, the 2 fire stations were built in the same period of time, right after baby boomers in the early 1950s, and they were just slapped together. Want to make sure the building is secure and safe. So before we put up solar panels, the roof has to be fixed, but we need to know that the building's going to stand. I don't want to remodel a kitchen if the building's not safe. So that needs to be part of the plan, part of the costs. We need to know what the total costs. In many projects I've been involved in the city, sometimes it costs less to build new. And I don't know, because we're not getting the questions answered. If we had the answers on what the retrofit would cost, it could be millions of dollars. I don't know, but with that type of construction, it could be problematic. So some of the other comments I had, let me get here. And I do agree the restroom study was set up to do the entire city, and not only to judge where the restrooms are needed, the type of construction, which would entail less maintenance and less problems. And that concludes, and it also addresses crime and how the restrooms attract crime and how the design could reduce threats to our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to take a pause and look around and see if there's some missing phone calls? They're not showing up on the Zoom, but it should show up.
There's a number that ends in 500.
Huh? If we can unmute that, see if there's a question. And
I think the caller has to press *9 on their phone as well. Okay, they should be able to speak.
all right.
Hello, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is Wendy Brickman. I'm representing the North Fremont Business District as its marketing consultant. I'm president of Fisherman's Wharf Association and publicist to Whale Fest this weekend. And I just wanted to say how grateful the North Fremont Business District Board and members are for the support of the proposed North Fremont projects, including the GAP design project that is Kona 04, and that would provide matching funds for installation of Class 1 facility on North Fremont Street between Casanova Avenue and Canyon Del Rey. State Route 218, I cannot tell you how many, as a publicist, comments we've gotten about the bike lane to nowhere, and anything we can do to extend it, whether on Mark Thomas or through this project, is very, very appreciated. I also want to thank everyone on the committee and for all your hard work, and urge the city to check out its phone second, because this happened to me on a city council meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And clarification, those were projects that we looked at the last meeting. So she's bringing those in.
Correct. So this was public comment, this meeting at the beginning of the meeting when I called at 6. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee comments. If not, I have a quick question or two I wanted to sneak in. One was, we actually did look at the grass on a New Monterey 09 in the past, a number of years ago. And I think one of the issues is that place continues to have issues around how that grass grows in that space with that dirt and that drainage. So I don't know if we want to have a brief comment on that.
Okay. My first question is that a shared use area? Because it used to be when there was an NIP project there to put playground equipment there, but it was always a problem getting in there because they would lock the gate and the neighbors would call all the time. So that should probably be checked. And the drainage, that area, that part of town does not drain very well, so they always have problems with the turf there. But I don't know if the public's allowed to use that when school's out. And I think that they do. Yeah, because they used to lock the gate and it used to cause a lot of problems there.
So the answer is, yeah, they do have a shared space. Okay, cool. And another question I had was, does the neighborhood want to combine the solar panels number 5 with number 12? The restoration.
I can check back. I'm getting a no. Looking at the audience.
No.
In terms of the roof that is included in 12, so the solar panels are like separate. So obviously we probably want to do the roof first before considering panels.
Right, thank you. And just one, oh, go ahead. Skyline.
I find it interesting that maybe our neighbors to the north, CSUMB, did not use any of the military buildings. They tore them down because it was too expensive to retrofit them.
And I don't know, do you want to jump in and just kind of let folks know that I think that the bathroom study's gone out for RFP, so it's moving?
Oh, yeah, yes, the bathroom study has gone to RF. Yeah, we've received proposals, evaluated the proposals, and it's pending council award of the contract. So, and it's in the hopper. So hopefully sooner than later.
Right on, thank you. Oh, New Monterey.
So I think there was supposed to be like a building analysis. I don't know if that was done yet or not. They were looking at the different, like the fire station and Hilltop and some of the other public use buildings to see what needed to be done.
Well, that's not part of the restroom study.
No. So
Oh.
this is separate. Yeah, it's not related to restrooms.
We have not, the city, we haven't done any facility assessment. Well, I mean, I know, well, let me rephrase that. Public Works is planning to do a facility assessment. I don't think it's done yet.
All right, any other comments for a New Monterey or questions? Otherwise, I think we'll move on to.
It would be refreshing if we got a commitment from the city that they're going to fix the roofs on these buildings.
We can ask. All right, so with that, I think we'll move on to Old Town. So let's see the list.
Right, there's no projects proposed in Oak Grove. And there's 3 Old Town proposed projects. There's Old Town 01, decomposed granite at the step sidewalk maintenance at Harrison Street and Veterans Drive. And we have an existing project to do similar work. You can check for overlap. Old Town 02 was a returning project. It's an old accessible park desktop survey. I think the idea was to try and find open space in the Old Town neighborhood that could be used as a park. Old Town 03, another returning project would be to honor garden at the current fire department, police department facility. And I mean, I know we've had some long discussions on this last year. There are plans to build a new facility. I think in the past, we've decided that it would be best to wait, I guess. And then one other proposal like on this one would be to maybe include the design of an honor garden in the design of the facility and have it all done at the same time. Those are the Old Town projects.
All right, thank you. Old Town, do you want to give us a little overview or clarification?
I agree with Reggie's assessment of Old Town 3, and the submitter has been notified that with the renovation that that project should be pinned, to the time when the remodel, renovation and reconstruction of the police department. So it was our hope that she would actually withdraw it, but it's been here. This is the third go around with this. Old Town 2, thankfully, with the help of PK Diffenbach, we now have access to Larkin Park. So we have a neighborhood park that we're using. The school was kind enough to step forward and put in the fence that cordons off that portion. And now the neighborhood has use of that part or that portion of the school, which going back to New Monterey 9 with the inner or 8, whichever one, the turf and play equipment at the school over in New Monterey. I would hope that you get a memo of understanding before going forward, because this park business was pending for years and years and years because the memo of understanding with the school district didn't happen. And it just so happened that Superintendent Diffenbach stepped forward and got that fence put in. And as for Old Town 1, that project has a real history. Originally, and it's been 6-7 years ago, that project was funded by our base allocation. We all remember what that was, and completed. And it was completed by the Eagle Scouts. And it was determined at the completion, we were told by Jeff Krebs that in fact, the hand railings were not at the proper height, and the whole project was supposed to be redone. And we've been waiting for that. And of course, now with the rains, it's washed out that DG granite, and the steps themselves were just very rudimentary. They're railroad ties. And I would submit that right now it's pretty unsafe. It has been, it's very treacherous. If you're up there, you almost have to snowplow to get down through from Harrison down to Veterans. So I would hope that there's some prioritization of this project, because I think it's presenting an unsafe condition up there. And that's about it for the Old Town projects.
All right, thank you. So
Thank you.
do we have any comments in the chambers on Old Town projects? No, seeing none. How are we looking online and on the phone for comments on Old Town? Any hands raised?
No hands raised.
All right, thank you. So let's bring it back then to the committee. Questions, comments on Old Town? Right, pretty straightforward then. Thank you. Oh, yeah,
Richard has his
online.
hand
Thank
raised.
you, sorry, Richard.
No problem. I'm very happy about the Larkin Park. I really thank the neighborhood for pursuing that. What I see on Old Town, I really like Reggie's idea about if we possibly could fund the honor garden, that it would be included in the new design of the new building. I want to emphasize in this case, they're talking about demolishing both the police department and the fire department and building a new structure for both. So that shows you what it costs to remodel 1960 buildings. I also would like to bring to the committee's attention to please read the 2020 increase in TOT tax. It's called Measure Y. And specifically, if you Google that, you'll see the city flyer that specifically says that this fund will be targeted through various items, including infrastructure renewal. So in that time period, the city has raised between $10 and $15 million. And I don't know why they can't use that fund to fix these roofs, because it seems to me if the roofs are leaking, why would you remodel a kitchen? It doesn't make sense. Fix the hole in your roof first. But anyway, I like these downtown projects, and I like the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Other online comments from the committee? I don't see any. So do you want to bring it back? Did you want to say anything more? Nope. All right. That's it for Old Town. Next on the list is Ryan Ranch.
And there are two nominated projects in Ryan Ranch. Ryan Ranch 01 is pickleball construction phase 1. So this would be money specifically for construction. Last year, the committee recommended the design. Ryan Ranch 02 is add sidewalk and 3 crosswalks on Lower and Upper Ragsdale near the Ohana, the new Ohana building. And those are the two Ryan Ranch projects.
All right, and we don't have a representative from Ryan Ranch to add color commentary, so I think we go right to the chamber. And are there any comments on the Ryan Ranch projects? And somebody want to come up? I don't see any in the chamber. Do we have any online and on the phone comments or questions or clarifications for Ryan Ranch?
No public comment raised.
All right, well, let's bring it back to the committee then. Ryan Ranch. Monterey Vista and then Skyline.
Yeah, I think I'd love to hear from pickleball players since they were, I'm understanding, a little caught off guard by the downtown tennis center offering to put in 8 pickleball courts and obviously charging money, but being able to do it at a much faster rate. And I think also being less stress on the city for maintenance and definitely less construction costs. So I haven't really heard from pickleball players whether they think they would like to play down there or would rather wait for courts out at Ryan Ranch for whenever that may or may not happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Skyline.
Isn't Ohana a commercial enterprise? Like, shouldn't they pay for their own sidewalk?
Montage. Quick comment about that.
The Fisherman's Flat.
Yeah, I have PT quite frequently at the Ryan Ranch, and I drive by there frequently, and I watch them spend millions of dollars on that brand new building. And nobody from the city figured out they needed to have sidewalks. Incredible. City staff must have been sleeping at the switchboard. That's all I can say. Because they built a beautiful, gorgeous building. You drive by there, it's absolutely gorgeous. And no sidewalks. And there's a great parking area, and the parking area is full. So anyway, it's sort of nuts to have them spend all these millions, and it's supposedly the building is open and they'll be taking patients in there, overnight patients soon, and what have you. I mean, it's just incredible that they have to ask NCIP to put in sidewalks.
So I think we discussed this earlier, so we'll put this back into this. What is it when you have a commercial property that's supposed to happen? Is it just a notification that goes out to the property owner?
I have a note. Yeah, I have a note
Yep.
here.
So we got it. We'll have this both. This is a bigger one. Other comments on Ryan Ranch, Deer Flats, and then
I don't want
Glenwood.
to speak for the pickleball people either, but I do recall when they made their presentation, it was about the percentages of the population and how much availability. And I remember they wanted more. So I tend to think that they would still want to see this project go through, even if it's being offered by a tennis club downtown.
Okay, Glenwood, and then we'll go online. No, you don't have a comment? No. Oh, okay. Oh. All right, so let's go online and Kurt?
Yeah. So is the design complete? And in that design, I believe we were talking about a restroom and handicap parking and that type of thing for RR1?
The design is not complete, no.
Okay.
And those things were items we were going to look at in that project.
Okay, so it's hard to fund this if we don't know exactly what we're funding.
Well, I think the request is, and maybe that's my fault. The request is specifically for $200,000.
Okay.
And I believe there was some discussion in the request of matching.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If
Now you said
Right,
that,
so-
right.
Okay, so to go over the full application, they're saying applicant is requesting $200,000 for construction of pickleball courts. And yes, they are. There's been discussion back and forth with the proponents where they talked about raising funds on their own and matching what what NCIP and or the city puts in.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other online. Parker?
No other comments.
Thank you. All right. Bring it back. Any other comments here from the committee? Nope. All right then. That move on to Skyline and let's see our list.
All right, there are 3 projects in nominated projects in Skyline. Skyline 01 is Veterans Park Trailside educational signage. And the signage is geared towards kind of the trees and plant life in the forest area there. SK02 is install new fencing in the bocce and basketball court area at Veterans Park. And SK03 is a returning project to look at erosion control in the day use area. And those are the 3 projects in Skyline.
Thank you. Skyline, do you want to give us some clarification?
Well, Skyline 1, I'd say on the previous comment that was made about, we have a signs department, don't we? Like, this doesn't seem like a giant project when it's kind of guessed at $1,700-1,800. So I wonder, well, there's a bid in here for $1,622.75. Is this really an NIP project? I don't know, NCIP project?
You talking to the mic or
Phone's on. I guess I gotta
pull it closer? Yeah.
I gotta get my face closer. Hi, folks. Is it working now?
Dennis, do you want to briefly summarize or do you want to say again your comments on Skyline 01?
I joined my other person who said that maybe signs ought to be taken up by the signs department for SK01. But maybe that should be investigated. The Veterans Park fencing, those little bollards that have been out there for years with the flags hanging off them are dilapidating and doesn't really make a great fence. So I think this is a good one. I'd like to find the original application as well for this 2009. We're going to go fix the ditch that's running away. It kind of goes along with what's happening with Lower Windermere, which isn't returning because I was advised council took the money. So that's all my comments.
3 comments. Okay, so Skyline, any comments from the chambers or questions for Skyline? And seeing none, how are we looking online and on the phone for Skyline?
No comments raised.
All right, thank you. So let's bring it back to committee. Any questions on Skyline? Okay, Glenwood. you first. All right, Fisherman's Flat. We'll go in order.
It'd be great to look in the van tour, how much is actually repair versus replace. 650 feet of fencing with the current cost is astronomical. So I would hope some of it can be repaired. I don't know. Or is it all so shot that we build a fire heap for?
So I'm not familiar who put this in, but I think what they're telling you is they want the bollards removed and probably a split rail fence in, which is quite a bit cheaper than your fencing costs. So I think that's what it's about. And I think it goes along the whole thing so cars can't drive in, kids can get out, animals can get out.
So Glenwood?
I want to comment on number one. I think if the sign department in Monterey can't make those signs, I think we should get a competitive bid. I have dealt with Signworks and Monterey Signs, and 9 times out of 10, I have always found Signworks to be way cheaper than, less expensive than the other guy, and also better quality. So I think we should look at some bids if the city sign department can't make those signs.
Well, we do not specifically advise any particular vendors. Reggie will be on it for the balanced approach for the costing. Thank you.
Good.
Monterey Vista.
This was in one stone here.
Okay, on Skyline 02, the fence, I know this was put in by the park attendant up there by Chris, and the reason being is there's a lot of kids playing ball out there, and he wants to replace these bollards because they're, through weed whacking and so forth, they're all getting worn out at the bottom and rotting over, and cars have driven right over them. But he wants to also put a split rail fence in there like he has at the bottom, with an extra rail at the bottom. So when balls go flying off, that they don't roll out in the road in front of cars and have kids chase them, chase the balls out in the road. And he's seen that many times. That big lawn area is used a lot for ball playing, both for kids and dogs and so forth. And the split rail fence that he put down and added the extra rail at the bottom has really stopped the basketballs from going out on the road, and that's helped. And he'd like to just continue that split rail fence up the road, and as well as replacing the aging bollards that are there. Thanks.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande.
Yeah, on SK 01, I can't help but ask, I mean, the sign part seems to be the easy thing. Who's going to write the
Does the submitter say anything about the content?
Well, they targeted to, they wanted to be educational about the, like I said, the plant life. It says, one sign is welcome, Monterey area is home, not just to varieties of sea life, but many unusual plants. And then it has a panel about the Monterey pine forest, manzanita, flowers, and keeps going. So there's like 6 ideas on here.
Skyline, Dennis.
I'd be happy to ask the applicant, but my copy is completely redacted and I'm not able to ask them.
So maybe we can work that out.
We can work that out.
Okay, good. All right, other comments on Skyline? Questions? Right. All right. Then I think we're on to Villa Del Monte.
There are 6 Villa Del Monte projects, and maybe one should have gotten into Casanova Oak Knoll, so we'll talk about that one. The first one, VDM 01, is construction funding or additional funding for the construction of Casa Verde Way underpass murals. VDM 02, this one is Fire Station 13 renovations and safety improvements. VDM 03 is radar speed signs. This is a returning project. And from best I can tell, it doesn't identify a specific location within the neighborhood. VDM 04 is traffic calming at this intersection. It's a returning project as well. VDM 05 is another traffic calming project at a different intersection, but looks like maybe same one of the streets is in common. And then VDM 06, which I guess inadvertently placed in Villa Del Monte because I thought it was south of North Fremont, but after reading it more closely, it's a returning project from one that we had discussed last year at this intersection with grandma's kitchen, and going north from North Fremont Street. So, yeah, and this is another returning project. So those are the 6. And again, when we have this conversation next time, I'll move this into the Casa Nova Oak Knoll neighborhood.
Okay, that will help. Villa Del Monte, do you want to give some comments?
01 is basically resubmitted so that it makes sure it caps off the entire project for the underpass and the art and the hardscaping of the slopes under the freeway. So that's why that is there, of course, with a couple of samples of ideas for some of the artwork. 02, this is kind of like the gym. So if and when it comes up for votes, we definitely want a prioritized list of what we may want to pick, like up on top of the park, maybe the roof first. But it's submitted primarily by the city, and they want us to fix the whole thing. Roof, kitchens, restrooms. I mean, it all needs it, obviously, but where do you start? The radar sign, I think it was over on, I'm not sure if it was Ramon or somewhere like that is where it was first placed, but can't find who the submitter was. And personally, if you don't enforce it, it just kind of is a good way to calibrate your speedometer when you're sailing down the street. I'm not sure what their worth is. Has there ever been a speed study that, 1, it's necessary, and then 2, after it's up, is it effective? Depends on the driver. As far as the traffic calming, this is an old project. I'm not familiar with it. And same with phase 2 traffic calming. Then I'm going to go into my standard traffic calming diatribe that you've heard before. When you want to calm traffic, that's fine and dandy for when things are normal. But when things are not normal and you need to get the heck out of town, traffic calming can really mess stuff up. And I'll ask you to remember back to Paradise, where over 80 people died in town because they couldn't get out. Traffic calming, remove some traffic lanes for bike lanes and stuff. So don't forget the other side of the equation, because the escape route is wherever you are when you got a haul. Might be your driveway. It's not just Highway 1, 68 or Carmel Valley. It's from wherever you're at. That's where the escape route starts. So what's available for you to get out of town quick? And last I saw, early this morning, there's lots of trees and windy roads up here on our hills. I'd hate to try and run out of that place quick. So anyway, just a thought to kind of temper on traffic calming and stuff like this here. You're slowing up people that may need to get out fast.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So do we have anybody in the council chambers that would like to address any of the Villa Del Monte projects? And I don't see anybody coming up to the podium. So if we take a look online and on the phone, do we see anybody?
No comments raised online. Oh, one committee member.
So I think then we'll bring it back to the committee. And since Richard got his hand up so fast, he's in there.
Thank you. My concerns on remodeling are the same with this fire station. They're all in the same time period. I want a safe structure. I know they condemned the hose tower, which they use for training. That has to be reconstructed too. So it's more than the roof. It's more than the kitchen. It's make the building safe, then do the modernization. I do want to comment on the Casanova Oak Knoll project. Maybe Reggie can tell me what it is. I think it's an old project we dropped. Is that the what do they call those? The dry wells project?
Right, yes, it's tree box catch basin.
Yes. Now, years ago, we have had a problem with flooding at Grandma's Kitchen at Fremont, which stops the entry and the exit of our neighborhood, also floods the northbound or the eastbound lane, the right lane of Fremont. I've seen it underwater with cars rooster tailing. Engineers' response to that project was design a dry well the size of a truck, a big hole in the ground filled with gravel, where this excess water would percolate on Dundee and on Lerwick to solve the problem of all the water going down the hill. We got the bill for that, and it bill was $600,000, but the key element to us was it only solved 5% of the problem, the city engineer's estimate. So we dropped the project. Reggie, you may erase this project. It no longer exists. It won't solve the problem.
Clarifying
Okay.
question, this says it's 185,000. I'm not sure this is the same tree well, and it might.
Yeah, it is. That was revised up to $600,000, and they were trying to get grants for it. But the key issue was it didn't solve the flooding problem, so why do it? And it was a major excavation on city sidewalks and parking areas in the street, the size of trucks. So I proposed the project. I withdrew the project. I withdrew the project when Jeff was still here. So you can just eliminate it. I will not support it anymore.
Okay, thank you. So any more online committee comments? And seeing none, I think we'll go ahead and bring it into the chambers for the committee to discuss Villa Del Monte and the VMT 6. Any questions, comments? I will throw one out. Traffic calming. You can tell by the nice bright paint that we did a work over around where VMD 4 and 5 are. So
I would like the city to clarify that maybe this hasn't been done already, or at least parts of it.
yeah, that's my request
No.
as well. And I also have a question. I think it might be helpful for us to understand when we approved the mosaic murals in the underpass, we talked about that as a beautification because so many visitors see that as their first look at the city. And I do think it had art in it. So when we approved it, like last year or the year before, so I think some clarification of why we're asking for more money for art would be helpful.
Well, yeah, so we'll have to, I can do some more research and follow up and we can discuss that at the next time this one comes up.
Yeah, the rumor I heard is that the city council took it out. And that's why I want to clarify because
Well,
we
the
didn't get
city council, so the original budget for the project was 750,000 roughly, I believe, and city council approved like 600,000 back in 2023, I believe, or 22. So that because it was somewhat of a sticker shock for the price, but so this could be for the difference, whatever that, like 150,000. But I can follow up and do some more research.
Okay, so yeah, so we have a situation where the city council amended the NIP's approvals after the NIP committee
Yes.
approved them. Okay,
And they reduced the funding for this one
and
project.
reduced our funding. Okay, good. Any other comments, questions, Villa Del Monte? Right on. Okay, so next we have multi-neighborhood. Just want to be sure I wasn't skipping anybody. Multi-neighborhoods. So let's see that list.
Okay, there are 14 multi-neighborhood projects. All right, multi-neighborhood 01 is a citywide ALPR cameras. And this project, I mean, although it's not, but it is, it's led by the Monterey Police Department. ALPR the city council approved the police department to move forward with the cameras at the April 2nd city council meeting. So the question, I don't, we can see how we want to move forward with this. If we just want to provide the funding to the police department, or if there's something else that the committee has in mind. MN02 is recreation trail, separate lanes for bikes and pedestrians. MN03 is the combined fire stations 12 and 13 rehabilitation. MN04 and 06 are combined underground utilities programming to address what we all know happens. MN07 is specifically for Del Monte Avenue undergrounding. MN05 is community-wide forest management. MN08 is for a comprehensive fire safety analysis and develop a hazard reduction program specifically for the urban forest. MN09 is this one's a returning. So prior to 2020, there was an opportunity property purchase fund that has not been reestablished. MN10 is a community-wide public art security plan. This is a returning project. MN11, community-wide historic Monterey master plan for, I believe it's, yeah, for art. Again, this was a returning project. MN12, recreation trail bike repair stations, specifically 2. This is a returning project. MN13, Holman Highway to Viejo Road bike path renovation. It's a returning project. MN14, community-wide recreation trail restroom signage, returning project. And hey, that's it.
All right, thank you. So these are multi-neighborhood. I would propose that just starting with multi-neighborhood number 1, if there's a particular rep that's kind of the lead on this, we'll have them speak, and let's go down through and get the reps' comments on these before we go out to the committee. So is there anybody speaking to VMDB 1? Fisherman's Flats.
Yeah, I was at the city council meeting. Reggie's talking about the police chief. He's the guy that needs to tell us how much money he wants. Basically, that if he wants any money or not, or no.
Agree.
It's my project, Jamie.
Question is how much?
Richard.
Yeah, this is not proposed by the police department, it's proposed by me. I proposed this project before the council approved the cameras. I thought it was very important for the safety and security of the neighborhoods and all residents of Monterey and visitors. And what I proposed is the purchase of the cameras and the installation of the cameras. And I put a specific amount, I believe it was 138,000. And it's just to put the cameras in and buy the cameras, not for the operation, not for the upkeep, but merely to show citywide support for a very, very successful force multiplier program for the law enforcement. It has worked. It is in place in Carmel, in Pacific Grove, in Seaside, in Marina, and in Salinas. As we speak, it's already installed. Salinas is putting in literally hundreds of them. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 38. So it's just me. The police have no part in this proposal at all. It's only my name on the proposal. And I believe that the only other project I would speak to is the one proposed by my alternate, and it's for the bike repair stations. He has been trying to get this for years. Jeff Krebs found the device, got MST to be part of it, and actually it's just a drop in next to the rec trail, and there's a bike pump and there's wrenches, and it's just fur away. And speaking as somebody that actually pushed my bike with a blowout from Asilomar to Casanova Oak, no, I know what this is like when you have a blown tire, and this is a place you can stop. Everything's attached with cables, and it can't be stolen, but it would be a very nice addition given the number of bikes we have on the trail.
So
That is the end of my comments. Thank you.
MN12, you guys. So that was MN1 and MN12. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any committee comments on MN2, the separate lanes for bikes and walkers? And 3, 4, 5, actually, any other comments we're got on from the committee to clarify on those? Right? Seeing none, I think we go ahead and then open this up for, well, so what I'm trying to do is get council, the color commentary and clarification from any of the committee sponsors that put these projects on, just like Richard did. So are there any other committee sponsors that put a multi-neighborhood in that you want to explain before we open it up for public comment? I don't just see it. Oh, yeah? Okay, Monte Vista.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a sponsor, but the fire analysis one was put in by somebody in our neighborhood who, I forget which one that one is right now. But the, MN08, the comprehensive fire analysis, this was put in by somebody who lost their fire insurance. And I know fire insurance has been a big issue here. And the submitter feels like a comprehensive study would go a long way towards identifying the same way that insurance companies identify hazards, and basically to eliminate so that we can prioritize projects to eliminate fire hazards the same way that insurance companies do, so that people can get fire insurance again. And that's the idea, so that residents can get covered and get fire insurance without, and that's his goal anyway.
Okay, thank you. Clarifying comment, Skyline.
How does this differ from the project that the former fire chief was working on a community-wide fire protection, wildfire protection program, which the city council funded and we had as an NCIP project and then dropped it because council funded it?
We're jumping ahead to committee questions, but we'll note that one down. Any other explanations before we open it up to public comment? All right, so let's have folks from the chamber that are already lined up. So makes the minutes better if you say your name when you come up. So are you ready? So you can talk about, because you're in line, you can just talk about whichever one you're in line to speak to. You don't have to do it in order.
Thank you. My name is Jason Wax. I'm the proposer of separate lanes on the bike trail. Been working on this project for 13 years now, since an accident I had there in a really congested area. Can you hear me okay through the microphone? Okay. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, clarifications. I contacted the head of design for California Department of Transportation in Sacramento and got serious clarification that the minimum width for a shared use path with bike lanes is 14 feet, 5 feet for each bike lane and 4 feet, which meets the ADA regulations also. Most of the section that I'm most interested in, from the wharf to the aquarium, ranges from 14 feet in a very short space to 20 feet. A lot of it's 15 feet, a lot of it's much wider. So it does meet the minimum requirements. DOT also likes a side berm of a couple of feet where it's feasible. The assistant to the director of design for DOT and I had a number of conversations. She's been on the bike trail. She's very familiar with it. And she also mentioned that public works engineers can ask for exemptions for anything that they want, and they're easily obtained through the Department of Transportation. There are a couple of pinch points there you're probably familiar with right on Lighthouse Curve. those should not be used as an obstacle to separating the pedestrians from bicycles. The latest Federal Highway Commission regulations that I read, and they've been updated, I believe, last year or the year before, state that on shared use paths that are where congestion is heavy, they recommend separation of bikes from pedestrians. Is my time up here? Pardon? Okay. So that sidetracked me a bit. Those were the main 2 points that I wanted to make clear. And one of the previous occasions, your committee majority voted pretty significant votes in support of separate lanes. 7 members voted of significant points out of 10 to support separate lanes. 5 members voted virtually 0 points, which really counterbalanced the majority inclination. So I just would like to tell you or suggest to you, though, if you're really in favor this year of getting bikes in Surrey's, and by the way, I understand Pacific Grove now is renting Surrey's also. But if you're going to vote to support it, give it heavy votes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Please approach.
Good evening, committee members. I'm Ray Myers. I live in Monterey Vista. I'm also the chairperson for Monterey Undergrounding. I'd like to speak on NN06. General comments about undergrounding. So for most of us baby boomer generation, it was our grandparents that summoned up the will and the courage to change the quality of their lives more than any other generation in history. Rarely does anyone stop to think about today what we take for granted, like electric power, water, waste treatment facilities, clean, safe drinking water, fast ground and air transportation, medical diagnosis, treatment, all instant communication anywhere in the world, all things they didn't have. Unfortunately, they're the dark side. The global climate change now brings about droughts, floods, more frequent and extreme weather events, and wildfires. Our distribution system of power, phone and internet, is an ugly mess of outdated circuits composed of poorly maintained conductors and other equipment on overhead, overburdened wooden poles. There's no easy answers. Quick solutions in reversing these changes will be difficult tasks. But first and foremost, we need to prioritize safety and from the threat of a devastating wildfire, as well as to prevent the extreme economic losses and instability from frequent blackouts. We need to get our electric power lines underground. Unlike other dangerous overhead utilities on poles, underground utilities do not cause wildfires, and power failures are far less likely to occur. For every street that you move power lines underground, those streets will be 98% less likely to have a fire or power failure because a tree that will not fall on overhead conductors. It's time to stop saying undergrounding utilities is too expensive. It may be equally expensive to perpetually reduce the dry vegetation that fuels these wildfires or add up all the economic losses from even more frequent power failures. Undergrounding is clearly less expensive than the accumulated loss of property value, taxes, jobs, wages, business, and most importantly, the potential loss of lives and the significant health impacts from the particulate pollution of a wildfire. Monterey issued PG&E an exclusive franchise agreement to be our energy distributor. They gave us worn out technology infrastructure that not only breaks down often, it threatens our very safety. We can't wait around and rely on the company that created this mix to fix it because they simply do not have to, and their past history says they won't. We need to channel that can-do spirit of our grandparents and stop saying what we can't do, start to roll up our sleeves, get to work, and change the course we're now on. Monterey City leaders, protect your citizens, start to create an underground utility committee, generate a plan to move our infrastructure underground. NCIP was designed to allow resident input for capital projects. Undergrounding is a long-term capital project solution for an urgent problem, not a maintenance task like trimming trees and vegetation.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jean Rash from Monterey Vista, and I am with Ray, the co-proponent of multi-neighborhood 06, which is in reference to the city manager who on February 6th suggested to city council and to NCIP indirectly that we allocate $2 million to start an undergrounding program. So MN 06 is envisioning how we could begin this. It would be seed money in the vision of Ray and I and Monterey Undergrounding. It would be the first $2 million. And I think we need to be very clear that this would be money for the subcontractors who underground. It's not for staff. It's not to pay positions for staff to evaluate. This is for the contract would be going out for an undergrounding project, and the firm would be paid this money. It would also be incorporate a loan program to low-income families who can't afford their own lateral. So the lateral being from the street to their home through their private property and for any essential upgrades to the utility box. So we know not everyone can afford that. That's the number one question we get. And this would be a loan from that money, and it would be repaid either when the family could pay or at this transfer of the home, at the sale of the home. So the city would always be getting that money back eventually. The proposal envisions some of the answers to the long-range questions. And we're imagining that this would be a permanent movement toward undergrounding. And as Ray mentioned, it would involve an undergrounding commission. So Monterey Undergrounding has had a lot of volunteers who've gotten very good at this. We have experts who are retired engineers. There's one man in the community that this is what he did for a living, is he undergrounded for AT&T. So we'd be optimizing that expertise with an undergrounding committee for the purpose of transparency. Okay, so you have $2 million. It should be a public forum on how we prioritize it. Is it going to be escape routes? Is it going to be high-risk fire areas? Is it going to be streets that are due for restructuring or new building or rebuilding anyway? And that would be a forum, just like Planning Commission, where everybody participates and is noticed and they can share their ideas. So these are some of this -06 project. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Grimes, and I'm a member of Old Town Neighborhood Association, and I also am on the Underground Committee. And my project was MN 07. And I guess I was mostly focusing on Del Monte Avenue in relation to when the power lines went down in March of 2023. And my concern for the fact that much of the peninsula was without power. The thought of those power lines being down on Del Monte Avenue and that being possibly one of our safe escape routes to get off the peninsula. And so I think focusing on getting a plan to underground our power lines for safety, reliability, for the whole Monterey, and just so that we can have a better infrastructure in our city. I think it's really important that we address these issues, and I'm hoping that we can get some funding from the neighborhood association to help get the city to move forward on a plan to get under our power lines underground, especially in these vital areas that provide power to most of our neighborhoods. To me, this is just an important issue that can't be put on the back burner. I think it's really important for the city to keep its, to stay together and for people to be able to live here. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. One more from the chamber.
So my name is Rosemary Robert. I live in Old Town. What I want to speak to is dividing the rec trail. It is so dangerous to have pedestrians, surreys, bicycles, people walking across. And it's very dangerous. I've lived in Monterey for 12 years. I lived in Pacific Grove for 12 years. And I've been on all parts of the rec trail from PG to here. And it's amazing how dangerous it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the chambers that wants to speak from the public? And my computer's dead, so now I'm going to utterly rely on you. Is there anybody from the public on the phone or the Zoom?
There's one comment for the public. Robert Yoha can now speak.
Go ahead.
Hello, Robert Yoha. I live in Casanova Oak Knoll, and back in the 1970s, it was safe for me to bicycle to MPC. And just last year, we finally approved improving a bicycle path on Mark Thomas Drive. Back in the 1970s, I could cycle down Lighthouse Avenue. It's not safe today. It's not safe to cycle down Foam Street. Actually, the safest place, and it's perhaps one of the more dangerous ones, is the bike trail. And it's not only just for the tourists and the surreys, it's for the residents that need to get from here to Pacific Grove. If I want to go to Lovers Point, or if I even want to take a recreational bike ride, I've got to take that section of bike trail from Fisherman's Wharf down to the aquarium. And that's perhaps one of the most densely used portions of the bike trail. And I'd surely like to recommend that this is an NCIP project. It helps both the residents and our visitors. Also, I would like to speak in support of the bicycle repair station. NCIP would only be paying for the installation. The Transportation Association of Monterey County would be paying for the equipment. And I don't know how many tourists I've seen that have had a flat tire or could need a wrench. One of the stations would be going down by the volleyball courts by Fisherman's Wharf. The other one would be over by the Monterey Bay Aquarium side. It's a very small project. It fell through the cracks last year. And please, could you support it this year? Thank you.
All right. They're online or phone?
No, there are raised comments.
Oh, all right. So then I think let's bring this back to the committee. So committee, multi-neighborhood. Let's start online. Is there anybody online that wants to speak to that from the committee?
Yes, one for Richard Roussel.
All right, Richard.
Thank you. I have three comments. One, I've been doing quite a bit of research on the Paradise Campfire and the Maui Fire. There's a lot of similarities to Monterey on a small number of escape routes, like Deer Flats has one, Fish Flats has two. Skyline depends on which direction you're going to go. Monte Vista the same. And our fuel reduction project, I would like the Parks Department to look at hardening the escape routes. What I've been told is in Monte Vista and Skyline, there are many, many pine trees leaning over the street. In those fires, it was high winds, very short warning. It's not hours, it's like minutes when a fire crowns and goes across the top of a forest. You have to be able to get in and out of your neighborhood, in for fire suppression, out for the residents. What I'm worried about is those leaning trees. If during a high wind or a forest fire, the tree goes down, that escape route is blocked. That's what I mean by hardening the escape route. If the tree falls and brings power lines down, you have to find another way out. You have minutes, and we really don't have an up-to-date system to tell you to go right, left, straight, back. We don't know. In Maui, a lot of cars were driving into the fire instead of away from the fire because of the lack of communication. But if we can include those streets, those escape routes with the fuel reduction, I believe it'll make this a safer city. So maybe they can increase the estimate at our next meeting when we get numbers for these projects. Second item I want to address is the undergrounding. It's very confusing to me that if we throw a pot of money down, how do we use it? How is it used in a reasonable period of time? Because I supported the North Fremont undergrounding. It's #1 in the city. It's accumulated several $1 million. I am unable to find out where we are after 10 years. And I just hope that if we do a pot of money, it's not 10 years before we get some idea of when we do the property surveys, when we get a estimate of the actual costs, when PG&E designs a system. These questions need to be answered before we vote. So I want some clarity on how the money is used and when it will be used. My last comment would be on project O2, multi-neighborhood. That's the recreation trail. I don't know if this is our call in NCIP. The Parks and Rec Commission is responsible for the rec trail. They do the master plan. And I really request that they take an official vote on this because it's come back 13 years in a row. I have no idea. I don't design recreational projects, and neither should any of us. We should abide by the other commissions and the master plans. I would like some clarity on that. That's the end of my comments. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other online comments from the committee?
No other raised hands for comment.
All right, let's bring it back to the council chambers for comments from the committee. Fisherman Flats.
I sent an email to the Parks and Rec Commission. One of the projects that Mr. Russello and I put in a co-sponsorship was for reinstalling the Dennis the Menace statue with video surveillance, and Parks and Rec said, we're not interested. Boggled my mind. It's right at the entrance to Dennis the Menace Park. So, you know, it boggles my mind what the Parks and Rec Commission is really interested in. Thank you.
Go ahead. You want to speak?
You're extra grumpy today. You know that? You're just a little bit edgy. Okay. So what the reason is, I agree that it's a good idea, but we have a policy right now that would need to be revised if we were to do that. And that's an area where there's a lot of minors present. And I realize what you're talking about is after hours videotaping. But right now, our policy does not allow us to do that. So it's not that we're not interested. It's just that right now, we're not able to do that.
You're not going to be able to retire till we get a policy set up. Right?
Oh, I think I will. Yes, I think I will.
Somebody can work on the policy. So other comments on the multi-neighborhood projects here from the committee, Monterey Vista.
Yes, I'd like to comment also on undergrounding in general. The undergrounding committee that was referred to has been basically working for about 5 years or more on kind of looking into undergrounding and studying undergrounding, how to fund it, and of course, all the pros and cons of it. I urge committee members to look at MontereyUndergrounding.net. They have a website. It's up and gives a lot of information, as well as we're having at Kona Center on April 29th. There will be a public forum on undergrounding where the undergrounding committee will present about undergrounding and how it can be done, could be done, and so forth. So I encourage board committee members to attend that and educate themselves a little bit about undergrounding and what can and can't be done. And I'm sure they'll be addressing exactly how money would be spent in projects like MN04 or MN06 and how that would work, and basically making a committee to, as Gene said, make a committee to prioritize projects and how to prioritize them, but also developing a plan for the city as a whole. That is one of the things that needs to happen first, is really develop a plan for a city in order to be able to prioritize. So.
Thank you. Other committee, Glenwood. Oh,
Go ahead.
Will the committee be sending that out to the neighborhood presidents so we can get it out to our neighborhoods also, the meeting at Kona?
The meeting at Kona has been advertised, and you can definitely, it's, if you go to montereyvista.net, you can get all the information. You can share it with your neighborhood. It'd be greatly appreciated. And yes, absolutely.
other committee, come on, Deer Flats.
So we were fortunate that when our neighborhood was built, it was undergrounded. So if you want to see what that looks like, just drive up through Deer Flats. It's nice just not to have the unsightly wires, but also just that less of a threat of fire from down, power wires and things like that. But our power goes out because just in the recent storms on Jocelyn, they had a tree go down, took power line out. So we're still affected, in that regard, but it's nice not having the power lines going by your house.
Skyline.
Yes, we too have undergrounded utilities, and the utility comes from downtown, up Highway 1 into Pebble Beach, all through Pebble Beach, comes up the canyon, goes up to the retirement homes, and therein goes under the ground. So we're subject to every tree in all of that territory. So underground, it depends on where the utility is serviced from. We get to enjoy it pretty much every single winter.
All right, Bill Damani.
On the rec trail, are there, what is separated?
Microphone.
Please speak into the microphone.
Better repeat.
What is separating the bicycle and the pedestrian from each other
Clarification, you asking now or in the project
in the
submittal?
project proposal?
So I think that submitter, you want to go ahead and clarify that? Since you're there?
Jason Wax again regarding separation of pedestrians from wheeled vehicles. The separation is going to be, or would be about a 6-inch stripe. 2 lanes for bikes, 1 in each direction, would be the 4 to 6 inch. I'm not sure what regulations require. 4 to 6 inch solid white stripe, and then the space for pedestrians. I wanted to make a comment regarding Park and Recreation, which declared that safety enhancements on the rec trail would be their high priority for the year. I believe that was 2 years ago. They made that statement. I don't know
Thank
what
you.
that means, but they made the declaration.
Thank you. Richard, did I see your hand up?
Yes, I want to clarify, I have a copy of the flyer for the undergrounding. If somebody volunteers, I will email it to them. I do not have everybody's email, but I have the flyer. I'm willing to share it. I'll give it to Reggie or whoever you designate, and he could send it to all of you if you want to know of that public meeting at the Casanova Park Center. My other comment, I want to clarify I'm the co-sponsor of the the Dennis the Menace security camera, and there is a precedent for cameras. It doesn't violate city policy. About 6 years ago, Dennis the Menace has been stolen twice and recovered once. But before that, we had the Sarah statue damaged on the lower Presidio Park. And Tom and I went through the city process, got NCIP to approve it, and the council approved it. And we have a camera on that statue, which is monitored 24 hours a day by an alarm company. So we already have an existing precedent. And this camera would be just focused on the Dennis the Menace statue after hours. It fits the criteria of the precedent. So we're also looking at a license plate reader program approved by the city council does not surveil people, but just licenses. But the Sarah statute is the precedent. So you're lucky you have old guys that remember these programs. But Tom and I spent about 2 years of our life on that project. I don't know how well it's doing. We had trouble with hookup because they didn't have high-speed internet at that location. We had to go on telephone lines. So the quality of the image is not what we really want. The youth center is different at Dennis the Menace. It has all those things. So just to clarify, there is a precedent. And if you tell me who to send the flyer to, I will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to jump in with 3 questions. But one has to do with the rec trail. I will comment first. We have a history of doing what we want to do, even when Parks doesn't say it's what they want to do. So that we have a lot to demonstrate. So the question I had is, there was 2 projects about the rec trail. I thought it was last year, and I thought one of those got approved. Does anybody? Ran out without my notes.
Say one thing. So when it comes to the maintenance of the rec trail, Parks maintains the rec trail. When it comes to traffic situations on the rec trail, that goes to traffic engineering. So we have no control over the stripes that we put there and what's going to be allowed there. That is traffic engineering that has to approve that.
Oh, that's helpful. Thank you. So next question I had was 8 and 5 are both talking about citywide forest and what we heard is a presentation on 5 talking about wanting to look at safe routes, and 8 actually talks about comprehensive analysis. I'm wondering, and we got a couple tree guys here, I'm wondering, is that would those projects go together, and would that be something that the city could do, or would that be an outsourced thing?
So Tice Norton, Parks Forestry. 5 is kind of what the continuation of our Greenbelt fuel reduction plan. That's just the ongoing work. That's all we're planning there doing. Dennis, you probably talked to the applicant for 8, is it 8, I believe. I only briefly got to speak with them. So I didn't get a full idea. I wondered if he talked to our fire department yet, maybe some CAL FIRE staff, and see what he had in mind. Because we do have quite a few that are personnel from fire that are interested in this, and the insurance part is tough. We try working with the residents on a regular basis about this. And on some cases I've gone and talked to insurance companies for them, trying to see what they want, and I'm not getting straight answers out of them. And it's a very frustrating thing. We try our best to help and work with our residents so we can accommodate so they don't get dropped. But I don't think it's a simple. I'd be surprised if it's a simple answer that just the study is going to answer the concerns of these insurance companies. They're marching to their own beat on this one. So, but I'm not saying it's not worth looking into. I definitely think it's worth looking into, but I think it's maybe something worth working with our fire department on.
Thank you, Skyline.
I happen to agree. I got dropped by AAA. State Farm picked me up, no problem. One of the neighbors 2 doors over was with Allstate. Everything on their property now is covered with rocks because Allstate literally drew a map on their property and said, this is what you're allowed. These bushes have to go, et cetera, et cetera. It's not going to be a one policy fits all. It's going to be every insurer's got their own stuff.
I suspect that the request is identification, and then there's going to be a follow-up request from NCIP to fund elimination and addressing. That's what I suspect. So, but first we need to know where to prioritize. At least that's my understanding from this one. I think Richard could say. Glenwood?
I have a question for Tice. Have you been able to see a copy of that report or work with anybody? The report that the former fire chief was working on, and we had town hall meetings at the conference center and.
Are you talking about the CWPP?
Have you been able to see it?
Yeah, it's online. It's a really good product online. I don't have what the the address on me, but yeah, it's very good. The a little bit of turnover change in the fire department staff, but they're picking it up. I think they're actually going to bring it up to staff. There's a storyline that they're going on with this. They are actually even working on a grant right now, applying for grants to try to support the CWPP. So yeah, it's moving, and hopefully you'll see some presentations in the future at the city council meeting by fire for it.
Could you send me the email link when you, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or the next day?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just bug me if you haven't heard from me in a few days.
Thank you. Good. Other committee comments, questions? Actually, I'm going to sneak one more in while we're here. Just a comment, folks. When they do undergrounding, it's not a loan, it's actually a lien. So there's no mechanism for that. There's no interest. It just, if you can't pay it, it sits there and waits till something else happens with that property, whether it's 100 years or one. So very simple. Other comments, questions? Bill and Amani.
Back to the trail. Here's a picture of the sign at one of the entrances. Prohibited on the rec trail. Motorized vehicles, motorcycles, mopeds, motorized bicycles, motorized scooters, motorized skateboards. You don't see any of that out there, do you? They locked up all the spray cans, so there's no graffiti around. Nobody has been seen holding one of these driving lately, have they? So it's called enforcement. Compliance is equal to the level of enforcement. So if you're going to paint some lines on the ground and you've got some tourists from Bulgaria here, good luck. I mean, if you're not going to do like the bicycle path to nowhere in the middle of North Fremont and physically divide folks, you're going to have issues if there's no enforcement or education at least.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No comment. Other clarifying questions or comments with regard to the multi-neighborhood? All right. Well, then I think with that, we have a finished agenda item 2. And the next item on the agenda is NCIP spokesperson reports. And Rick is not here and I have nothing to say. Oh, there we go. Reggie.
I have a report. I'll make it brief in the interest of time. Since the last meeting, we've completed 3 projects, or a majority of 3 projects. The Fisherman Flats Traffic Calming Plan and Monterey Vista Traffic Calming Plan were adopted by City Council on April 2nd. And Parks Department installed U-Lock compatible bike racks at the Sports Center. That leaves us with currently with 65 projects and a budget of roughly $10.9 million. And we're currently working on 19 projects. So here's the new bike racks, if you haven't been to the Sports Center recently. As we talked about earlier, the public restroom study is pending award by City Council. Forest management's ongoing. Spray Avenue tot lot resurfacing is underway with the completion of tomorrow. Laguna Grande parking lot lighting construction starts next Tuesday. Old Capitol Site Master Plan, there's going to be a follow-up meeting on April 23rd at the Casa Nova Oak Knoll Park Center. The ALPR program was approved by council on April 2nd. We're still trying to schedule Veterans Park West parking lot upgrades. We got some a second rec trail water bottle refill stations on order. Still working on contracting boardwalk extension at Del Monte Beach. Casa Verde rec trail crossing proposals are due April 30th. Mark Thomas Bike Lane, that's in early design. Colton Hall, working on the bid documents still. That's on me. San Burnaby Drive, we met with the proponents on March 19th. Oak Street, I met with the interested party on April 8th. we're working on design for Camino El Estero, Webster Rapid Flashing Beacon, and Mark Thomas Separated Bike Path is, I think I already said that, but anyway, it's under design. And the Monterey Vista construction, those traffic calming plans there, the design is ongoing. Casanova Casanova Avenue radar speed sign and Jocelyn Canyon radar speed sign, still seeking neighbor support. So those are the ongoing projects we're working on. And then I sent out an email to the 16 committee members that your terms are coming up at the end of June. So we have a actual schedule now that came out from the city clerk's office earlier this morning. So they're going to start notice for new applications on April 12th. If you are interested in returning to the committee, you must reapply. There'll be an open house, so to speak, at the library on the 27th for all the boards and commissions and committees in the city that have openings. Then there'll be an online open house on the 29th of April. Applications are due May 3rd. The mayor will do interviews throughout May and the mayor will make a recommendation to city council with appointment at June 18th meeting.
Where do you get that application? Because I emailed the city clerk and didn't hear back.
I don't know. I imagine it'll be online on the city's website, but I don't know.
Okay, not till tomorrow. Thank you. Question, Glenwood?
I called talked to Reggie and he sent me an email and then I called Clementine.
Oh, you're not. Yeah, you're not. Your microphone.
It was on.
Yes, check with city clerk.
All right, thank you. Is any more on to report? Oh,
No, that's it. The next meeting will be April 25th.
Reggie, the 69 projects that are out there, is there a list of those projects? I didn't find one online, but if you could either send us a list of those projects and maybe their budgets or whatever you have on a spreadsheet, that'd be really great. I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
That was my question to Reggie, was when are we going to have some numbers to go with some of these projects will blow this thing out of the water? It must be about, how many millions of some of the, these, 2 million for this and an old congressman from my old state said a few million here, a few million there. Pretty soon you're talking real money. Senator Dirksen, he's been dead a long time, but he was right on.
And perhaps clarify, what's your plan with regard to estimating? Because it's different. than what we
Right.
did.
My goal for the next round, so starting in 2 weeks, is to have both the conflict maps and some rough estimates on the projects for starting, for April 25th.
Other questions with regard to the status report? I would say thank you very much for giving us a status report showing that things are getting done, even as we're doing the year's work to put more on. So that's really double duty there. So thank you. So that was NCIP spokesperson reports. So at this point in time, the next thing on the agenda is committee member comments. And for me, it's just easier if we go in some semblance of order. So I'm going to start on the dais with Villa Del Monte. Any comments?
My term expires. I am not reapplying.
We'll miss you.
Last time I mentioned that the lower Windermere water thing had been, was not being reconsidered, and it was a project that was taken by the city and in their economic emergency. Reggie was nice enough to provide me with a report in terms of what happened with that money, and the city grabbed it, city council grabbed it to fund the upper Windermere part when the Gabion baskets was not able to be used for rebuilding the upper Windermere part. That flies in the face of the intent and what we actually passed as a committee in recommending up to city council. And I'd like Reggie to share that report with the rest of the committee and maybe agendize it for discussion at the next meeting, because I think we as a group need to understand that city council can override all of the work that we do. And in this particular case, it resulted in what's now trying to be funded for $2.5 million worth of over washout that it's threatening houses to go into the ravine because we didn't attend to what we knew in NCIP was something important to do. So where does the work that we do to look out for the good of the city go when it disappears and no notice was given? So I'd like to maybe put that on the agenda and share that report with the rest of the group to be able to discuss that.
Well, I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, and I encourage everybody to work with your project submitters to understand your projects, and you can get all the projects from Reggie unredacted, so you can find out who submitted them and talk with them. But it's worth doing that. And we're also, Monterey Vista will soon send out a survey to all our members, all our Monterey Vista neighborhood members, to prioritize projects within our neighborhood. So we'll have support for prioritizing our projects. So thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody, for your hard work. Last night at Parks and Recs, they prioritized their projects. And if we could get a copy of that, Reggie, from Parks and Recs, we would appreciate that for our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. And I will be coming back.
I had the same thought on enforcement for the rec trail. But having the sign does maybe have an effect. I'm thinking that maybe that is a first step, just we have some, if that project does get considered, that at least now we've got some delineation on the rec trail. And sometimes people self-police, right? You're not supposed to be here. The bike's supposed to be over there kind of thing. So, but I tend to agree with you.
Thank you. You, Maureen?
Just to piggyback on that with the rec trail, I'm wondering if maybe Parks and Rec or traffic, I guess, can comment on whether the feasibility of like a more physical barrier, because the rec trail on the Pacific Grove side kind of has separation, but it's not separated. So I think it would need to be something more physical, and I don't know if that's feasible.
In addition to the Laguna Grande Park lighting, Louis has taken it upon himself to do a lot of cool miscellaneous improvements, and I and the rest of the neighborhood are very thankful for that. So thank you.
Yeah, good evening, Tom Raleigh. We had our annual meeting and elections, and unfortunately, I got reelected for another year as president of our Fisherman's Flats. But anyway, nobody else wants the job. But we've previously, our neighborhood has queried, do you want undergrounding? Are you willing to pay $10,000 typical minimum expense? And some of them are a lot greater than that, up to $27,000. And they all said unanimously, no, they weren't. So, all these people that are in favor of undergrounding are all left. But my feeling is this is something that needs to be handled at the city council level. The city council needs to take action. They've heard repeated reports from these folks and everybody in these committees. They're meeting, and that stuff is all available to the city staff, and it's like they're not interested. The mayor's not interested. They're interested in something else. The city manager's not interested. So there's 3 other proposals I want to tell you about that we talked about that are important for all the neighborhoods because it affects the future of Monterey. There's a Highway 68 area plan that was adopted by the voters of Monterey in 1983. There was a blue ribbon committee of the leaders of Monterey that put it on the ballot. It passed almost unanimously. And then in early 84, I believe, the city council adopted it as Highway 68 area plan. There were 4 major areas that were considered to be annexed to the city on the Highway 68 corridor. One of those was Tarpey Flats, which is over 100 acres, which is where the airport previously was located before it was moved to its current location by a guy named, the street's named after him, where you go into the airport. Anyway, that was at the beginning of World War II. So the thing is, this is a eminently developable lot. Back in the early mid-80s, our neighborhood was approached by a developer from San Jose who wanted to develop an office park, which is one of the things that was allowed in this, and it's still in the county. It's still zoned in the county. And it was proposed to annex to the city of Monterey, and it said no annexations. This plan, the Highway 68, no annexations of level of the service is below C, and it's been F ever since. And they don't even have F anymore. They changed the way traffic is. So anyway, one of the things we heard was a presentation from a gentleman who's a developer, and you should be familiar with his name. His name is Brad Slama, Slama. He's a guy that redeveloped the old bank building in downtown Salinas, 50 units. It's now in the market for 15 million. They lowered it from 16 million. But anyway, he is the one that is in charge and is running the show on the 4 major redevelopments on Garden Road, where they took commercial property and by an overlay said, we're going to put residential. 2 of the 4 lots are vacant lots. One was where the gym was. One was where the Trident Center was. These are vacant lots planning to be developed, which will all be developed in the next 3 to 5 years. One of the things that's in my neighborhood, Foothill School, is now used for like approximately almost 200 K through 2 second grade charter school. PK Diffenbach, outstanding guy. He knows what he's doing. He closed that school, the newest school in the MPUSD system. Anyway, my belief is when they build these 4 in the next 3 to 5 years on Garden Road, there are going to be people with kids that are going to need to go to school. They're going to have to consider reopening. They're in the 3rd year of charter school right now. So the next thing that's coming up that affects the Highway 68 corridor, and it's on Wednesday, April 24th, TAMC is having an update on an EIR that's on the 9 roundabouts. There's been public meetings on this, and I need to tell you, the problem is, where is this at? It's over in Salinas. So to participate, you got to go over to Salinas. Now, our representative is Ed Smith. He's a representative for TAMC. He's very knowledgeable, but he needs our support. So the other thing is, and Jean Roche left, she called my attention to the fact that the city council gave authority to the city manager to negotiate an MOU with the Monterey Airport for 8 lots. And if the map that you showed that's up there, that shows it's mostly the lots that are along Salinas Highway, 8 lots, to turn over and change the city boundaries. That would no longer, if this was eventually approved, and my feeling is this is something, changing the boundaries of Monterey should be something that we all vote on. That should be a deal. It's something the city manager cuts a deal and it goes through LAFCO. So this is something you need to ask your city councilman, which may not be Ed Smith, it may be somebody else. So this is something that's still going. This was approved last September and is still in the works as far as I know.
Tom,
So I mentioned these 3 things are affecting all of our neighborhoods because it affects the growth of Monterey. And the county in its regional housing plan proposes 2,000 units of housing. Mr. Slama proposes 350 units of housing on Tarpey Flats, which that is about half the size of Delray Oaks.
So I was going to say, this is a lot for us to take in, but it's
So
relevant
anyway,
to the
I'm telling
neighborhoods.
you, it's giving you heads up because you need to talk to your individual council person to tell them how you feel on this, because this affects the future of Monterey.
Could you not,
greatly.
could you get your team to maybe put some bullet points together so the neighborhoods could get
Yeah,
the benefit of this?
I can send an email to you and you can distribute it how you want.
I think that would be very
Okay.
helpful.
But I'm saying this came up at our neighborhood meeting on Monday, all of this. And maybe it's why I'm grumpy, because I got to tell you, the proposal for 9 roundabouts on Salinas Highway will not solve a damn thing in the long haul because Caltrans refuses to increase the capacity. They want to put roundabouts. That's going to solve everything. It's going to
That's
slow everybody down to 25 miles an hour. Anyway, in my opinion. So these are issues that are going to affect all of you, but because of our now divisional district neighborhoods, like Ed Smith came to our meeting and he's the TAMC rep on the 24th of this month. So this is a major update and this affects all the neighborhoods, affects the routes in and out of the city. You know, a tree goes down.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this affects all of us. So this is why I'm spending some time to talk about it.
I think it's important. You've talked about these topics before, but you've got a lot of information. I mean, even just a few bullet points.
But I
So-
can't do it. You have to talk to your council person
Right.
and nail them down. What are you doing on these issues?
Right.
They're
Thank you.
escaping. They're talking about things like rental registries and they just barely passed the license plate thing. That skimmed through 3-2. It almost got defeated.
By the
that
way,
we
and-
would be the last town.
And NIP led the way on that, NCIP, big pat on the back. So Old Town.
No comment.
All right. So I cannot see online. How are we doing on comments?
Richards raised his hand.
Yes, thank you. There are others that weren't recognized. I see Luz is online and so is Tammy.
By the way, I think
But-
Luce's may not even be marked down for attendance. That was one of my.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay, go ahead.
So I want to start with praising Reggie. Reggie, any progress, given your reduced staffing, is very encouraging. Thank you for everything you're doing. Second, Jamie, you ran a perfect meeting. Thank you. Third, I just want to inform the committee that at the last meeting, there was a mention of purchasing a lot on Casanova and using the lake water. And they discussed the toxic plume that is under Kona. I'm the one that exposed this toxic plume in July 2000. And I sat on the Army Corps Committee meetings every month for 14 years. That plume extends from the airport hangars all the way to the base of the PG&E substation. So because of that comment, I made a call to Public Works a couple days ago, and I brought up the resolution from 2014 when we closed out. We had 22 wells. There are 3 that we insisted that they do not fill in so we could sample the water. And part of that resolution is to sample those 3 wells. And that is in process now. And I will be informing you before voting night if the plume migrated the further 100 yards is into the lake. We're talking 4 very dangerous carcinogen chemicals. So this affects how we're going to vote on whether they can use the well water on that lake. But I will supply that information to you and the staff. So I thank them for bringing it up. I've been lax. They were supposed to do at least 2 to 3 tests, and nobody's done that for the last 10 years, but they agreed to do it. So it's going to be done. Thank you, Jamie. Wonderful meeting.
Thank you. And Luce, you had comments? And Kurt. Let's do Luce if she's still got her hand up. I don't see her. So Kurt, why don't you get going?
First, thank you, Jamie. Good meeting. Reggie, can you give an approximate date on when the design for the rapid flashing beacon on Webster and Elistero is going to be done? Next meeting would be fine.
Okay. Next,
And yeah, because I keep one of the neighbors keeps asking, so I'm trying to tell her it is in progress, but if you can just get an approximate date, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Other online comment? Nope. All right. So we'll bring it back to the committee. I actually had one housekeeping comment to slip in. It might be good for us to maybe even bring back to the committee some of the an excerpt or some instruction from the handbook when it comes to things like we're going to put a new road in or change this road completely and 6 out of 10 people approve it. We have guidelines that talk about exactly who needs to approve something within so many feet of it. That often makes good projects not happen. So we don't want to lose sight as we're hearing this. We have some rules about approval. And I know Sharon's usually the first one to remind us of that, but that would be probably helpful for us as we evaluate some of these projects. And aside from that, thank you. Lovely to spend the evening with you all. So we'll see you on the 25th of April. And I think I say meeting adjourned.
just adjourn. Yeah.